Welcome to John Martin Talks, where we battle ignorance and apathy daily. The growing ignorance of just how special this experiment we call the United States of America is, and the apathy that we can't or won't do anything and everything to save her. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we got a great show for you today. I want to make a very quick housekeeping, so to speak, announcement. Yes, I am in jail of sorts. I have been social media arrested. Now, those of you who are watching on YouTube, you won't be seeing me today, so you may not even get this. But I don't know how, I've never really been in YouTube jail, but I'm in YouTube jail right now because of a show we did earlier this week. You may recall it, where I talked about George W. Bush and his remarks on 9/11, where in my opinion, and the opinion of many people, not necessarily a fact, and I said at the time, it was my opinion that what George W. Bush was doing was comparing the Taliban to the January 6th insurrectionists, if you want to call them that. And not only did I seem to believe that, but many Democrats believed it as well because they praised George W. Bush for it. So I'm disputing it. I don't know how long YouTube jail lasts, but they took that video down, and I am in YouTube jail because I had the audacity to question, I guess, George W. Bush. Anyway, I just wanted to tell you that. To a certain extent, I guess maybe it's a badge of honor. Maybe we're having some kind of impact they don't want us to have. But we'll move along. We're going to keep, as I tell you all the time, we're determined to stay in the public square no matter what. So we're going to persevere. And, I need your help as listeners, because you got to search out shows like us. You got to share them far and wide and do whatever you can to make sure we get this message out, because the various powers that be do not want you to be heard. They don't want people like me to be heard. In fact, and I wasn't going to talk about this, but I'll talk about it for just a second. In fact, they're now after Nicki Minaj. We talked about her a little bit yesterday. Nicki Minaj has a TikTok video out right now, and you really ought to check it out. I don't know if you have to be a member of TikTok to see it. I actually saw it on Tucker Carlson last night, and essentially she is standing up for freedom of speech, and she makes some excellent points there, and I got to tell you, I was very, very impressed by what she had to say, and I would recommend all Americans take the courage, even if you don't like her music and everything, you really ought to see this, because this young lady is under attack simply for speaking her mind and telling people when it comes to the vaccine to pray. She didn't say don't take it. She simply said pray about it, and do what you think is in your best interest. And for that, she must be destroyed. All right, let's get along with our show here. We got a great one for you today. We're going to expand on something we just talked about yesterday. I didn't have time to get too much in depth in it, but we're going to talk about General Milley and potentially his treasonous acts. And my question I put in my little headline here is, have we lost civilian control? I'm talking about civilian control of the military, because Milley, through a spokesperson, has defended and not denied his calls to his counterparts in China during the Trump presidency. So we'll talk about that. And then hopefully we'll have time to get into this hypocrisy, if you will, about the Democrats reject a plan for illegals to be vaccinated. When Joe Biden came out with his deal the other day and basically said all Americans have to be vaccinated, he specifically left out illegal immigrants. Well, Representative Issa, I think is how you say his name, I'll get it right in a minute, but from California, he put forward a bill yesterday in the House to make all people coming here vaccinated, and of course the Democrats shot it down unanimously, and big surprise there, right? And we'll talk about the hypocrisy of that, because I'm telling you right now, these progressives do not believe and certainly don't practice what they preach, but they want you to. Before we go any further though, I always have to talk about our sponsors, because You know, we're under the gun here. We got great sponsors. You people, you guys that are listening are doing a wonderful job of supporting us. We need you to do even more. You know, I tell you all the time, not everybody can be a fighter, but everybody can support those of us in the fight. And me and Billy Bob and my whole crew here at John Martin Talks, we are in the fight. Billy Bob is my psychic sidekick, by the way. He's got a Twitter handle. It's at Billy Bob Bass, and mine is at John Martin Talks, at least for now. But our sponsors, number one on that list, BDU, Big Daddy Unlimited. Now, to see any of our sponsors, links to our sponsors, look above the video no matter when or where you're watching it, and click on, in this case, BDU and other sponsorship links. But Big Daddy Unlimited is your go-to place, your Second Amendment headquarters, because not only can you get factory direct pricing on guns and ammunitions, by the way, in stock and delivered directly to your door, but access to over 100,000 related items, including tactical gear, protective wear, even survival merchandise you can get through Big Daddy Unlimited. Heck, you can get Second Amendment swag through Big Daddy Unlimited BDU. And I tell you, they're your Second Amendment headquarters, because that's exactly what they are. They defend your Second Amendment on a daily basis. Now, you may be asking, well, how can I tell what kind of discounts I'm going to get? Well, there's two ways. One, you could simply click on the link above the video, follow the directions for 99 cents for the first month, virtually free, 99 cents, couch cushion money. You will get access to all of Big Daddy Unlimited's arsenal, if you want to call it that. And then it's $10 a month thereafter. No obligation to stay, but I hope you will. They got deals to special subscription rates and that, but we get a little cut of that $10, and that's how we get sponsored. And you get factory direct pricing on all things Second Amendment related, delivered directly to your door. But another way to actually see, get a glimpse of the savings you can get is to check out Denny's deals. Denny comes on John Martin Talks Facebook page. He's also on our excluded Facebook page. You drop the E, spell it with an X, excluded. He comes on at 10 o'clock in the morning Eastern Standard Time, live an hour before we do. And what Denny does is he picks a couple of products from the Big Daddy Unlimited lineup, and he demonstrates them, talks about them. Then he gives you the factory, he gives you the manufactured suggested retail price. He gives you the average of the internet price on the items he's showing, and then he gives you the Big Daddy, if you were a member, unlimited savings price. And you will, if you make any kind of major gun purchase, you will save more money on your first purchase than you will as far as the cost of a subscription. So check out Denny's deals, then go to the link above our video and click on it, BDU, and get signed up. All right, another sponsor we have, and I'm very excited about this because one of the things, if you've watched our show any length of time, you know that I'm always trying to help and that I care about our audience. I care about people in general, and I want to make you healthier, wealthier, and wiser. I want to make you wiser by watching the show, share it far and wide. I want to make you wealthier because we're about to launch a new sponsor in the next couple of days, a gold sponsor. We're going to be your go-to place for precious metals and gold. But as far as healthier, all you got to do is look above the show, click on johnmartinhealth.com, johnmartinhealth.com, and what I'm going to do, just follow the simple directions on that landing page, and you will get free, yes, I said free, no obligation whatsoever, this bottle of zinc, so you get minerals, and you get a bottle of vitamin D3 simply by being a fan of the show. So go to johnmartinhealth.com, because one of the things that we've realized in this pandemic, if you will, or plandemic, as I'm coming to believe like a lot of my listeners, is that we should all agree on one thing. We need to be healthier as a people, as individuals, as citizens of the United States of America and the world in general, because I got listeners all over the world, and everybody within the sound of my voice can get free zinc and free vitamin D. Simply go to johnmartinhealth.com, the link above the video, follow the directions, and get your free gift. All right, let's get into the meat and potatoes of the show. This first story comes to you via CBS News. Milley, talking about General Milley, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, stands by communications with China amid new book. This new book is, by Woodward, and not Bernstein this time, just Mr. Woodward. And he's got Acosta, I think, or Costa, a partner in it. Washington, Chairman of Joint Chiefs of Staff General Mark Milley denied any wrongdoing with calls with his Chinese counterpart held in the closing months of the Trump administration. So he's not denying having the calls, he's denying that he did anything wrong, and we'll expand upon that. But revelations of which sparked outrage from GOP lawmakers and calls for his termination. Outrage from GOP lawmakers. Well, the left is proclaiming this guy as a hero. And I'm going to play you a video in just a moment, but I want to say this first. You know, Joe Biden talked about that he was going to be what? The great unifier, right? Isn't that the theme of his inauguration, with unity and unifying us? It's hard to unify when you are on polar opposite sides of an issue that is, in this case, core to whether or not we're going to remain a republic or we're going to go down the way of a banana republic. Because in this case, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to spell out the case in just a minute, but I'm going to say it right off the top here. And I don't know how much of this is true about this book and General Milley and all of that. So I'll give him a little bit of benefit of the doubt, but based on the comments of his spokesperson. Now, Milley has not gone to the microphone and spoken or taken questions on this as of the airing of the show today, but the left is calling this guy essentially a hero. And I could play you multiple clips that have pundits talking about how heroic he is. But keep in mind that right now, the only real opinion of Milley that matters is the commander-in-chief. And I wish I was talking about Donald Trump, but no, I'm talking about Joe Biden, man. He is the one that got the most ballots, it seems like. Certainly he's in the White House, and we just have to deal with it. He's the only one, really, that has the power to get rid of Milley. And this is what Joe Biden said yesterday in a press conference when asked about General Milley. And keep in mind, before I play this, this is after Milley confirmed that he spoke with his Chinese counterpart during the Trump administration. Check it out.
Thank you. Come on, let's go.
I have great confidence in General Milley.
In an excerpt from the book, that's good enough. Great confidence. So he's saying that he has great confidence in a man that when he was serving in the same position under Donald Trump, went behind his back, contacted what you could certainly is one of our top adversaries, if not our top adversary in China, and said that he would warn them if we were planning any type of attack in advance. Yes, he would give them advance knowledge. No evidence has been presented that Donald Trump was even contemplating this, let alone going to actually do it. But Milley admits that he talked to China behind the president's back. And keep in mind, I'll talk more about this in a minute, the Joint Chiefs of Staff is not a command position. Yes, he's a general, but, and Milley in his own spokesman's words in a few minutes, I'll show you, admits this, that the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff is an advisory position to primarily the President of the United States and to a certain extent the Secretary of Defense. But they are not in a command position. And that is very important for you to understand that. But so Biden says he has complete confidence in a guy that stabbed his last boss in the back. Let me just cut to the chase on this right now. If this is allowed to stand, if what Milley is accused of and what he's even admitted to this point is allowed to stand, then our republic is over. It's over. Now, I'm not saying the United States of America will just fall to pieces. Certainly it would be on its way. But the country that we know that our founders fought so hard and gave us, the people in the military that sacrificed their lives and limbs and everything else, gave us this republic, as Ben Franklin said, if you can keep it. It is over. Once we lose civilian control of the military, which is the crux of what this is all about, then we no longer have the United States of America, one nation under God, under the U.S. Constitution. We don't have that anymore. What we have could be debatable, but I don't see how you could possibly debate, and this is what my message to people who may not agree with me in general of my political stance. But I think if you take an honest look at it and you know what our founding documents, what our nation is founded on, whether you like Milley or whatever, to me, take the characters out and just look at what happened. You had one of the top military people, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, go behind the duly elected, whether you like it or not, president in Donald Trump and literally take matters into his own hand. That is a form of military coup, and it is certainly at the very least the loss of civilian control of the military. We're supposed to elect, you don't have to like every president. Heck, I don't like Joe Biden as president. I don't at all. I wish he wasn't the president. But I don't think that Milley should go behind Biden's back either. You know, even though Biden, you can make a case, is much more close to total incompetence and incoherence than probably any president we've had since Woodrow Wilson, and he was a comatose. So there you go. But just to let you know, and I'm about to say something that's probably controversial to many of my fans here, so hang on for it. Just to let you know that I'd like to think, and I believe that I'm a person of principle. Doesn't mean I'm always right. But let's talk about Oliver North for just a minute. Now, Oliver North has always been a mixed bag to me. I really appreciate and applaud his service, and I don't necessarily question his patriotism, and I like a lot of what he has to say these days. He's a brilliant guy. He served this nation admirably. But I'll tell you this, in my opinion, and once again, YouTube or whoever, this is just my opinion, go back to the Iran-Contra days under Ronald Reagan and Oliver North. I really believe that Oliver North violated his oath, let's put it that way, and potentially committed a treasonous act when he, and you got to hear me out on this, when he lied to Congress under oath in a congressional hearing about the Iran-Contra deal. And that was basically, I'm not going to get too deep into the specifics, but essentially what happened is the Reagan administration and Oliver North kind of ran the show. We gave money to the Contras in Nicaragua in exchange for trying to get the hostages free in Iran. And the end result was good. We got the hostages back, but I don't think the means is always justified. The ends always justify the means. Oliver North. Now, I agreed with his politics on it. I agreed with trying to get the hostages, but you don't take an oath to the President of the United States. Do you realize that? The President now takes an oath to us to protect and defend the Constitution against enemies both foreign and domestic. But the military does not take an oath to the President, the person, the man, the woman, whoever, the person in the job. They take an oath similar to the President's oath to protect and defend the U.S. Constitution. So Oliver North, you could totally, this is just my opinion, but you can totally disagree with it. But when Congress, and at the time Congress was totally controlled by Yahoo Democrats, similar to what they are now, I had zero respect for them, but they were the duly elected people in Congress. If you're under oath and you're standing before Congress in a hearing, in my opinion, you must tell the truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God. And Oliver North did not do that, and he admits that he did not do that. And I have had a bit of disdain for him, and still do to this day, ever since, because I believe that you got to follow the Constitution even if it's not popular, even if you don't agree with some particular political stance. When you put your right hand and swear an oath, then you should live up to that oath. And I don't believe that Mr. North did that. And I absolutely don't believe that General Milley did that. Once we lose, and this goes back to Oliver North, and I'll move on, we lose civilian control. Congress asked the man a question, he lied to them. Congress, love him, hate him, or whatever, whoever's in there are the duly elected people. I can totally disagree with them, but they're the duly elected people. And once we lose that, then everything else doesn't matter anymore because you're basically becoming a dictatorship and a banana republic. As much as respect as I have for the U.S. military, and as I said, Oliver North and his service, we cannot have the military making decisions above and beyond and outside civilian control. It just cannot happen. And it has definitely been happening for a while, and it certainly seems to be happening in a big way on this. Let's move along. Colonel Dave Butler, a spokesman to Milley, said in a statement, so Milley has not, as far as I know, faced the actual cameras and questions, and he should. This is what his spokesman said in a statement coming from General Milley. His calls, talking about General Milley, with the Chinese and others in October and January. These dates are very important. This is October of last year and January of this year. I'll tell you why that's so important in just a minute. We're in keeping with these duties and responsibilities, conveying reassurances in order to maintain strategic stability. So in the name of stability, he's going to go behind the back of the president and talk to his counterpart in China. The statement goes on. All calls from the chairman to his counterparts, including those reported, are staffed, coordinated, and communicated with the Department of Defense and the interagency. Well, but it's not to the president. Keep in mind that Milley's position as chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff is an advisory role. This is very important. It's an advisory role to the president mainly and to the Secretary of Defense. It is not a command position. Not a command position. So he is not supposed to strike out on his own, which is what he did here. And as far as this part, and we'll get to it in just a minute, coordinated, communicated with the Department of Defense, keep that statement in mind because I'm about to prove that to be a lie right here. Christopher Miller. Now this comes to you via the New York Times and was reported in Fox News. Christopher Miller, who led the Pentagon on an acting basis between the 2020 presidential election and the inauguration of Joe Biden. So in other words, this person, Christopher Miller, was the acting Secretary of Defense during the time that these calls were made, certainly the second one. In 2020 presidential election, inauguration of Joe Biden. So he was the Secretary of Defense until Joe Biden was inaugurated. Mr. Miller told Fox News that Milley's actions represents a disgraceful and unprecedented act of insubordination by the nation's top military officer. He went on to say in an earlier interview that he was not apprised of these phone calls. He, the Secretary of Defense now, who Milley answers to, was not aware of his calls to the Chinese, basically the same level of government, Chinese Joint Chief of Staff. It's not really called that, but their top person. So you're having the Secretary of Defense saying that Milley is lying. One of the calls, now these dates are what's important. One of the calls was held October 30th and just before the election, right? Just before the election. So we don't know the results of what the election is yet unless Milley has inside dope on that. And of course he was making phone calls to Nancy Pelosi as well, which I don't know which is worse, but anyway he was. But on October 30th, he made call to the Chinese official. And on January 8th, now keep in mind that on January 8th, of course, and I'll get into the significance of that more in just a second, but let me just say this. Go back to what Mr. Miller, the then Secretary of Defense, said, that he did not authorize nor was he aware of any calls made by Milley to China. He didn't authorize that. Now, the spokesperson for Milley said they went through the chain of command. Somebody's lying, and we need to get to the bottom of that. I know who I would probably lean to as lying, probably Milley, because he's lied before. We already know that. But on January 8th, the Secretary of Defense at that time was Mr. Miller, and he is saying on the record that Milley, I get the names confused, General, did not confer with him in any way, which is a violation of the chain of command. All right, so one of the calls went out on October 30th and the other on January 8th, and they, being Milley and his spokesperson, are not denying this. 2 days after the January 8th call, is 2 days after, now listen, this is the article saying this, not me. 2 days after a mob of former President Trump supporters breached the U.S. Capitol, according to reports about the book. What gets me is how they always describe people. You know, there's this whole idea of a double standard. There's no double standard. I tell you that all the time. If you're new to the show, you might not have heard this, but if I say it, it bears repeating. There's no double standard. There's a standard that the right is held to, that people like me, you know, getting put in YouTube jail. Yeah, we're held to a standard. But what standard is the left held to? Because they talk about a mob of former President Trump supporters. Do they ever describe the people that were literally burning the country down over the past year? How do they describe them? Well, here is one description right here. Check it out. Let's play that peaceful protest.
I want to be clear in how I characterize this. This is mostly a protest. It is not generally speaking unruly, but fires have been started, and there's a crowd that is.
But fires have been started. I mean, so in the background, he's saying it's a mostly peaceful protest. You know, behind him, the world is coming to an end. It's not, I mean, were they running around with, like, you know, twigs with marshmallows and hot dogs on them? Were they having a weenie roast? Or were they cooking s'mores? I mean, the place is literally burning down behind him, and he's describing it as a mostly peaceful protest. And oh, by the way, a fire or two have been, you know, the campfire girls are over here. Buy your s'mores right now. It's ridiculous, man. They always talk about anybody that has a MAGA hat on, you know, including like the kid from Kentucky, man. They're rioters, you know. They're staring them down and everything. I mean, my God, man. Can you not see this? I mean, going back to like what Nicki Minaj, and I would tell you, really look at that video she released yesterday. I mean, can you not see? You can hate Donald Trump all you want. You can disagree with me politically all you want. You could be out in California and voting to keep the SIHT flowing, you know, all you want. But how can you actually look me in the eye or look yourself in the mirror and see that you know, mostly peaceful protest while the city is burning down, but it's always a mob. It doesn't matter what. I could be one dude standing on the street corner here where our studios are in Gainesville, Florida, with a sign saying Trump won. You know, and I would be considered a right-wing white supremacist mob by myself. I'm telling you, it's just crazy. Let's get on with this. This stuff, it really bothers me. It angers me. But, you know, anger comes from fear, right? And I'm afraid that I am very afraid that we are losing our nation literally before our eyes. And this story just cuts to the chase of it. The authors also claim Milley said he would alert his Lee in the event, that's the general over in China, in the event of attack by the U.S. following the January 6th assault on the Capitol, sought to assure his counterpart the U.S. was stable. Now, Billy Bob Bass, I told you he's my psychic sidekick. He's telling me Senator Rubio sent a letter to President Biden basically asking for Milley's resignation. Billy Bob says we actually have a copy of that letter. So if we do, let's put it up. Wait a minute. Billy Bob's always, that's not a letter from Rubio. That's a wanted poster for Benedict Arnold, for God's sakes. Offering $200. How much should we offer for Milley? You know, Benedict Arnold was a traitor who went across the Hudson River and warned the British that we were about to attack West Point. Now, he had been a patriot up to then. A lot of people don't realize this about Benedict Arnold. By all accounts, Benedict Arnold was a patriot until the day he wasn't. And whatever reason he had, some of it was money. In this case, he was getting paid. I'm not saying Milley, or he wanted to get paid. I'm not saying Milley is this word, but Milley may have had a reputable, you know, before this event, he may have been an outstanding person. I don't know that much about him. You know, he'd been in the military obviously his whole life. But in the moment that he made that phone call to China, he is, in my opinion, ban me if you want, a traitor. In my opinion, he is culpable and should be court-martialed. The revelations from the book, published by several news outlets Tuesday prompted backlash from Republicans who said Milley should either resign or be fired. Rubio wrote that letter I just talked about, and reports indicate the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, this was in Rubio's letter, worked to actively undermine the commander-in-chief, which at that time was Donald J. Trump, contemplated a treasonous leak of classified information to the Chinese Communist Party in advance of a potential armed conflict. The man should be not resign, he should be court-martialed. First of all, Trump wasn't, there's no evidence, and we'll talk more about it in a minute, that he was even contemplating that. But let's say, for the sake of conversations, we were planning to attack China. I'm just saying. Let's just say, for the example, we were. To actually warn them that this was coming would mean you're putting who in harm's way? American troops would be. Is there any doubt that we would have loss of life of American troops? So this is treasonous. It should be a court-martialable offense. I wouldn't hold your breath. Mr. Trump blasted Milley. We talked about his statement yesterday. You should look at Mr. Trump's statement about Milley. It's pretty cool. I don't have time to read it all now. Saying a statement he should be tried for treason, the former president denied he was thinking of attacking China. And there's no evidence that Donald Trump was thinking of attacking anybody. I mean, Donald Trump is a counterpuncher. He always has been. That's what he warned the Taliban about. If you try to hurt our people, we're going to hit you like you've never been hit before. Do you understand me? According to Donald Trump's own words. And what happened? We didn't lose a single American soldier in over 18 months in Afghanistan. Because why? Not because they don't want to kill us. Death to America, they say that before they have their Cheerios in the morning. But they say it because they didn't do it, they didn't hurt Americans because of fear of Donald Trump. There's just, how else would you explain it? But Donald Trump, see, here's the thing, and I talked about this earlier this week. Donald Trump, the reason why the military, the upper military, not the rank and file people, but the people like Milley don't like Donald Trump is because of something like this right here. Listen to this.
Some kind of conflict in Iran. And
well, I'm the one that talks about these wars that are 19 years and people are just there. And don't kid yourself, you do have a military-industrial complex. They do like war. You know, in Syria with the caliphate. So I wipe out 100% of the caliphate. That doesn't mean you're not going to have these crazy people going around blowing up stores and blowing up things. These are seriously ill people. I don't want to say, oh, they're wiped out, you know, ISIS. But I wiped out 100% of the caliphate. I say, I want to bring our troops back home. The place went crazy. They want to keep, you have people here in Washington, they never want to leave. I say, you know what I'll do? I'll leave a couple of hundred soldiers behind. But if it was up to them, they'd bring thousands of soldiers in. Someday people will explain it.
Well, this is an example.
You do have a group, and they call it the military-industrial complex. They never want to leave.
The military-industrial complex, which Dwight Eisenhower warned us about in his last address to the nation as he was leaving office. Keep in mind, if you haven't heard that address, you ought to listen to it. But Dwight Eisenhower was the Allied commander in World War II. In other words, he commanded the entire Allied U.S. forces in World War II. Then he was president of the United States. No one knew more about the buildup of the military-industrial complex than Dwight Eisenhower, and he warned us about that, and really the only president that I can remember really talking about it since then is who? Donald J. Trump. And that's why the military, remember what he talked about that a little bit? He didn't really expand upon it, but when he was talking about moving troops out of Syria, oh my God, man, everybody came after him from both sides of the aisle politically, everybody, because he was threatening their war machine. And you may say, well then, well, Biden is pulling us out of Afghanistan. And I'm not a big conspiracy theorist, but I just want to throw this out there for you. Could it be, and I'm asking for a friend, I'll blame it on Billy Bob, ban him, not me. Could it possibly be that we left all of those arms over there intentionally, I'm just asking, so that the Taliban would take them over, do horrendous things, and justify us? Because you hear people like Lindsey Graham, for instance, saying we're definitely going to have to go back into Afghanistan. So could it be that they left all that over there, the total turmoil, so we'd have to go back into Afghanistan? And think about this. If we don't have any weapons left over there or stockpile, what are we going to have to do? We're going to have to buy new ones, right? There you go. I'm just saying. Believe me, there is something to this, but I firmly believe that the main reason that the big brass like Milley are anti-Trump is not because of him as a person, it's because they fear his threat to the thing that cannot be said, the military-industrial complex. Another reason why we need Mr. Trump back in there. In addition to detailing Milley's conversations with his counterpart in China, back to the story, the new book excuse me, also reportedly reveals he gathered senior military officials. Now keep in mind that as I said before, that Milley as a Joint Chiefs of Staff is not in a command position. It's an advisory position. Keep that in mind. But the new book also reportedly reveals he, talking about Milley, gathered senior military officers after the January 6th attack. Now it went from a mob to an attack, to review procedures for launching nuclear weapons and acknowledge that while the president could order a launch. Now, how does nuclear weapons and January 6th tie in and China? I mean, where's the connection there? You know, these people are out there, man. But while the president could order a launch, Milley had to be part of the process, which is simply not true. So basically what Milley is doing is telling these officers that they must swear allegiance to him. Swear allegiance to him. The military doesn't swear allegiance to any officer like that. They don't even swear allegiance to the President of the dadgum United States. They swear allegiance essentially to us, the American people, to the Constitution, because the Constitution, contrary to what Joe Biden says, is us. It's not him. It's not Milley. It's not the military-industrial complex. At least it's not supposed to be. It's supposed to be us, the governed who give permission to be governed. Do you not understand that? That's why I don't care. You can hate Donald Trump all you want, but this is a direct threat. They talk about protecting our democracy, which is supposed to be actually a republic, but this is a direct threat to that. The only allegiance that the military has to a particular president is the office of president, which the person is duly elected under the U.S. Constitution. Therefore, he's the ultimate representative of the people. We the people is not Donald Trump. It is not Joe Biden. It is not whoever the next person is. We the people is you and me. Back to this story. It just gets me, I get angry because I'm afraid we're losing this country. Butler, who is Milley's spokesman, said the general frequently holds meetings with uniformed leaders across the military to keep them abreast of current issues as part of his responsibilities. Now, this is their own person. Get this is basically Milley, but Butler, his spokesman, saying this. I'm going to start this part over. That he has meetings with leaders across the military to keep them abreast of current issues. Wait for it. As part of his responsibilities as senior military advisor to the president and the defense secretary. He's an advisor to the president and the secretary of defense, both of which have come out and said they knew nothing about this. So in the statement, they basically implicate themselves. They admit guilt because they said, yes, these conversations happen, and they're admitting that they're supposed to be senior military advisor to the president and defense secretary, and they didn't advise them of squat. I mean, that's very important. They've essentially put out the evidence that they're guilty. But Butler, the spokesperson for Milley, went on to say the meeting regarding nuclear weapons protocols was to remind uniformed leaders in the Pentagon of the long-established and robust procedures in light of media reporting on the subject. So the media apparently was reporting that Donald Trump is off the chain, and so that means that General Milley has to step forward. Milley has stepped forward. Milley, whatever, traitor is what he is. General Milley continues to act and advise, this is the statement, act and advise within his authority in the lawful tradition of civilian control of the military, his oath to the Constitution. Well, excuse me, I mean, where is his, I don't see an oath to the Constitution in any of this, because he's reminding uniformed leaders in the Pentagon that he's the man. Right? He's saying he's the man. Let me tell you, this meme, I saw this the other day and I keep posting it. It really is true, man. This is the government that our founders warned us about. Do you not see that, ladies and gentlemen? If you love America, forget the politics of left and right. I'm just asking, if you love America and you believe in the U.S. Constitution, is this not the government? We're losing civilian control. Is this not the government that our founders warned us about, not to mention Dwight Eisenhower? And then, of course, the Second Amendment. Let's talk about the Second Amendment for a minute. And I love this part right here, this meme. But I want to read you the text of the Second Amendment. A well-regulated militia, then I'll come back and explain how this ties together. A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, not a bloated federal government, a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Our founding fathers knew the danger of a standing, sitting military. The Constitution actually provides for a navy, and that's it. Our founding fathers were terrified of a standing military. Now, this is not to be critical of the people who are in our military. If you've watched our show in a long time, you know I have tremendous respect for our military people. But never forget that our founders were terrified of a standing military. Even Dwight Eisenhower, who was the supreme commander and president of the United States, warned us about this because they knew, the founders knew, and Eisenhower saw it and lived it, that it was a direct threat to our very freedom as a nation to have a military that did not answer to who? You and me. And that's why we're supposed to be a well-regulated militia to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. It's not to hunt squirrels. It's not to shoot deer. I'm not opposing that. But it's to protect and defend against the tyranny of an overreaching federal bloated government. And on a side note, to basically protect and defend, which I think is a human right beyond just an inalienable right, to defend yourself, your family, your possessions, your business. And there are a lot of places don't have that, and that's why it's one of the reasons why people are trying to come in here. But it says here, I want to read this part again, to the security of a free state. Do we have any free states? Are we free anymore? I mean, I tell you all the time, I'm American by birth, Floridian by the grace of God, man. But are there any left? I'd like to think Florida is, and we're teetering as well. We're under pressure. I mean, Governor Ron DeSantis, America's governor, is under constant threat. But we also, in Florida, and this goes back to the Second Amendment, we're also this. We're the gunshine state, baby. You better understand that it's very important to Floridians and Texans and a lot of people alike. So I want to briefly mention this September 8th rally. I don't know that much about it, okay? It's making the news. September 18th rally. It's sponsored by a group called Look Ahead America. I don't know that much about it, but I can tell you that they are bringing fear, in a sense, to the Capitol, because they're going to try to make this January 6th all over. When I say they, I'm not talking about this group, Look Ahead America. I would I checked out their website. I'm not recommending it. I'm simply saying check it out. Their mission statement was pretty cool. But listen to the rules for this, and this is bringing terror to people. These are the stated rules for this rally in our nation's capital on a Saturday, by the way, the September 18th. This is what they're putting out. Travel in groups. Be respectful to our security team and law enforcement. Sounds reasonable to me. Do not wear, and listen to this, this is something interesting. This is what the group is putting out. Say, do not wear or bring political candidate or another organization's paraphernalia. This includes clothing or banners supportive of President Trump or President Biden. So they're trying to be apolitical. Good luck with that. Do wear your red, white, and blue and bring your American flags and signs to show your support for the January 6th prisoners. So what they're saying is people are being unduly held you know, without speedy trials and all that kind of stuff. So they're standing up for the people that are in effect being imprisoned, political prisoners. That's what they really are. It says, if you see, they go on to say, if you see anyone causing trouble, start recording them with your cell phone video and signal for help to their people, volunteers in red shirts. And I say, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not encouraging or discouraging you from going. We must man the political ramparts, or we're going to have to man the real ones again. I want to play you 2 back-to-back short videos that are the scariest things I've ever heard a president say. Let's roll with the first one about who we the people are. Check it out.
The Constitution opens with the words as trite as it sounds, we the people. Well, it's time to remember that we the people are the government.
There you go. You have it. The government our founders warned us about. Joe Biden is telling you that him, Nancy Pelosi, and Chuck Schumer are we the people. They're the government, which is the actual opposite of the Constitution. Now, here is probably the scariest thing I've ever heard a president say, and this right here, play it, about the Second Amendment. He's talking about the Second Amendment.
But no amendment to the Constitution is absolute.
No amendment is absolute. Now, I've talked about this in depth a lot. If you want to see past episodes of our show, probably the most consistent way to do it is go to the Excluded app. Go to your app store, spell Excluded by dropping the E, put the big X up there. Our show will not be taken down from there, I assure you, and it's part of a new platform we're in the process of launching, and it's got other great shows. Check it out. You can't beat it. Excluded app. Check it out. Drop the E, put Excluded, go to your app store. But ladies and gentlemen, I want to show you this meme because I want to make sure, I'm about out of time, but I'm not advocating violence. This, though, is what they're worried about. They want us to be peaceful. I would say passive, man. We cannot be passive. We must show the Thomas Jefferson. I'd say peaceful but not passive. We cannot be ignorant and free, or we want what never was and never will be. Thomas Jefferson, TJ, is right about this, baby. We cannot be both ignorant and free. That's why I battle ignorance and apathy daily. We got to educate. We got to motivate ourselves and others. We got to activate. And yes, we need to eliminate by voting them out of office, including Republicans, if they won't stand. Support those of us in the fight. Not everybody can be a fighter, but everybody can support those of us in the fight. And I just asked a simple question I've been asking almost daily. Who's with me? I hope you are. All right, I wanted to talk about this article. I really don't have time. Maybe we'll get into it tomorrow, but check it out on Breitbart. It says Democrats reject plan to mandate corona vaccines for immigrants. There's a push among like Darrell Issa, that was the name I was trying to come up with, to make all immigrants coming to this country be vaccinated. If you're going to require it of American citizens, by God, we should require it of them. But check that article out. Maybe, perhaps we'll talk about it some tomorrow because I think it is a very important story. I hope you've enjoyed the show as much as I've enjoyed bringing it to you. Please go directly to all our social media sites, like them, share them, spread them as far and wide as possible. Please don't forget our sponsors. Remember, I'm trying to give you a free gift, so look above the show, go to johnmartinhealth.com link there. Just follow the directions. You will get as a gift from me to you a bottle of zinc mineral and a bottle of vitamin D3, as well as access to tons of other products. Well, I'll pray for your family like I say each and every day. You please pray for mine. God, we better pray for this nation because she absolutely needs it right now. And as I say, above all else, each and every day, from my heart, from my family to yours, have a blessed day.